Hi everyone and welcome to Brass Bands England Brass Chat. It's great to be with you. I'm Helen Minshall from the Brass Foundations team and I'm delighted to have here Phil Cumberworth from the Dobcross Brass Monkeys, who's going to tell us a little bit about the band. So welcome, Phil.
Good afternoon.
Great to see you, and I'm looking forward to hearing all about the Dobcross Brass Monkeys. I run an adult band for learners myself, so maybe I can pick up some hints and tips from you.
I was hoping it was going to be the other way around, actually.
So, how long ago did you start the band then?
Well, it wasn't me that started it. It was Grenville Moore.
Oh, I know Grenville really well, yes.
Yeah, right. Well, he was conducting Dobcross Band in 2009. And he said all around Saddleworth, there's all these bands and there's all these school bands, youth bands. Nobody's teaching adults. So we decided to form this adult learning group. And he started to attract people. And when he got to 8, he got in touch with me. He said, I've got a lot on at work. Could you take the band for 2 weeks? And that was in 2009.
That sounds like fun.
And then after that, despite my best efforts and trying to put people off, we kept attracting players. We've had as many as just over 30 in the band. So from being like an adult training group, it became a proper brass band.
Well, that sounds incredible. Down at Astley in our Unlimited band, we actually rehearsed during the day. And we found that we attract quite a number of players, older players that maybe don't want to be traipsing out at 8 o'clock at night in the week, in the middle of winter when it's cold and dark. And we've got quite a mixture in our band. I think the eldest is about 87. And We've also got some people in the 20s. Do you have a kind of particular age group in your band?
Yeah, there's no limit. I mean, we did have a chap in his 80s. And he'd played before. He rang me up and said, I was wondering if I could join your band before I lose the ability to play. He said, I haven't played for a while. And I said, well, when did you last play? He said, 45 years ago.
Yes, I've had one like that. 54 years was one of mine.
Right.
One of mine, the euphonium player, his son had bought him a euphonium for his 70th birthday, and he'd not played since he was in his teens.
Oh,
and he started having lessons every week as well. So do you find that they come at all different abilities and different stages in the playing?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we're looking for the type of person who's gone through life saying, I wish I'd learned to play an instrument. I wish I'd learned to read music. And those are the ideal ones who want complete beginners. But we do get people who have played, when they're at school, and then they packed in when they left school. And they've just thought, well, it's a waste. I want to take it up again.
Do you do anything by ways of sort of lessons for them, or do they learn through the band as a group, as a large group?
As soon as somebody turns up, we stick an instrument in their hand and sit them with the band. But I do lessons as well, either before band practice or here at my home. They come round if they're struggling with anything.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said for learning at Nellie's elbow, isn't there, where you sit them with a more experienced player. I know in my adult band we have players in there who've played all the lives and are maybe in the 70s now, and they've still got a lot to offer by way of sitting. For example, I've got one chap who is a choir master. He runs the choir at Salford Royal Hospital, and he runs another community choir. He's a retired head teacher, and he started learning to play along with his grandchildren. And of course he could read music, but he'd never played a euphonium. And then he sat down with a euphonium, and it's amazing the progress he made sitting next to somebody in the band who was maybe in the 70s as well, but had played all the lives. It's nice that people can pass their experience on like that.
And I like the ones that can read music, and that makes it a lot easier. If they come along, they used to play a flute or something like that.
Yeah, they don't like to let you down, do they? They're always very reliable, I find.
Well, having said that, I went years without ever having a full band practice.
Oh, did you?
There was always somebody missing, and I used to say, the law of averages. You'd think one day everybody would turn up at the same rehearsal.
You would hope so. So, Do you actually do any sort of active recruitment for the band, or do you just see who turns up?
And we put adverts out every now and again. We've put some out post-COVID because we were thinking that there's probably people out there now who play with brass bands who've, because of COVID, they've got to thinking, actually, I quite like this, not rushing home, getting me tea, going to rehearsal twice a week.
Yeah.
It's probably time to sit back a bit. We were hoping to pick a few people like that, but we haven't done.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people kind of having this enforced break from everything, have actually sat down and, like you say, reassessed their priorities and actually realised that there are other things you can do of an evening and other things that fill the gap. I do know of people who haven't gone back to banding, or like you say, have maybe not gone back to it in the same way, and maybe don't want the pressure of contesting and suddenly having to be at band every night of the week, and that intensity of working towards a contest piece that you play once and that's it, and maybe just want to go back to concerts. What kind of repertoire do you play?
I try and keep it very varied because they've all got different likes and whatnot, and so I try to get some of the old stuff in. I like doing some of the old overtures, and I've been surprised that some have come along without any classical knowledge, and they've loved the overtures. But then we go forward and we play pop music. We've got a couple of pieces by Adele there. I mean, I had to look up who Adele was.
Our lot have enjoyed, we did the Impresario a couple of years ago, and we've just recently started on the Arcadians, and while there's people in there who can play the corner men, can play the Arcadians, and the inner parts are quite reasonably accessible, like the back row cornets, the second arm parts, your second barriers, and it's not too bad. It's trying to find always pieces that are going to keep the interest of the better players, but be accessible to those who are not quite so accomplished. I find that's one of the challenges.
Well, I found like the Rossini overtures, you get a lot of back row cornet rhythms that are the same as the solo cornet.
Yeah.
So they might not have the same notes, but the rhythms are there, and that really helps. And they find them sort of pieces easier. I mean, Impresario, that's quite an ask, that, isn't it?
It was. We had Richard Evans down one time to actually take them through a rehearsal, and he did quite a bit of work on that. And that was quite an enjoyable experience. I don't quite know what he thought of us, but there we go. But yesterday I was working with a lady. She has a lesson every week with me. She's a retired head teacher as well. Didn't start playing the cornet until she was 60, and she's flying on it now. But we were working on the March Arnhem, and she couldn't quite get how in the trio she couldn't pitch the tune at all. I said, you've not got the tune, you've got exactly the same thing as the solo cornets, but in the lower register. And once I kind of mentioned that, she kind of latched onto it, and she was okay with it then. But yeah, it's choosing. Always difficult to choose repertoire and to find things. Very often they'll come to me with things that they want to play.
Yeah.
They'll come and mention pieces that they want to play, and at the moment we're doing quite a lot of Alan Fernie stuff. We've been doing The Old Rugged Cross and Hey Jude, and one or two other pieces of Alan Fernie's that I find quite a bit of his stuff, Kate, as well, for a balance of experienced players along with those that are not quite as far on.
We bought quite a few Gavin Somerset.
Oh yeah.
Quite a few of them seem to be our sort of level, and we've enjoyed them. Sorry, I'm advertising now for Gavin Somerset, aren't I?
And I'm advertising for Alan Fernie, but no, it's good because people out there want to know what works and what's accessible, I think, and it's important that when you put music out there that your band can at least have a reasonable attempt at it, and you don't want to bore people, but then again you don't want to pitch it too difficult for the ones that aren't as far on. Did you find you get a good balance of players of different instruments coming down, or are you heavier in some sections than others?
At the moment, we've pretty much a full band. We've always struggled with a soprano player.
Yeah.
And we haven't got one down. We haven't had one for a few years, but we've coped without a soprano. So I haven't tried to encourage any soprano players. But we're doing all right now, except we're tenor trombone down. We could do with the first tenor trombone. Apart from that, we're doing great.
I find that we end up being lighter on cornets than the bigger stuff. We have quite a few players who come now and again to bands, and when we actually sat down and worked out how many players we had in each section, the euphonium and baritone section had 17 players. But they don't all come every week.
Wow.
There's quite a number. I think there's 7 second baritones, but some of them can only play half a dozen notes. And when it
How big a band have you got then?
well, normally there's about 35 turn up at a rehearsal.
And half of them are on baritone and euphonium.
Yeah, it seems that people who've played cornet as they get older and they lose their muscle tone a little bit have been defecting onto baritones.
Yeah.
So we always seem to end up a little bit light on cornets. So we try to encourage more cornets to come down. And basses as well. We did have 2 elderly gentlemen who came down before COVID who haven't come back at the moment yet. Did you do anything during COVID? Did you do anything online?
We did a couple of these video montages.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the first one we did was shocking. We just started off simple. We just did a hymn tune.
Yeah.
And I used some free software to put it together.
Yeah.
And it wandered. So it sounded far worse than they were because the individual tracks became out of sync as it went on. So I then bought some proper software.
Yeah.
And we did some for last Christmas. We did Rocking Around the Christmas Tree.
Oh, yeah.
The first Noel.
Great.
We had some fun with them.
We did some Zoom rehearsals, and we found some of the elderly people were quite happy with Zoom, and some of them weren't. Some of them didn't want to know. But really, they were just playing along with backing tracks. So, but at least some of them got to see each other on the screen, which for some of them, they were quite lonely, I think, the ones that live on their own, and it was nice for them to actually see one another. But when we got to the stage in sort of the end of May where we were allowed to meet, we managed to get the local Lancashire Mining Museum, which is just across the road from us in Astley. They let us rehearse in their tea tent, which had open sides. So we managed to get some outdoor rehearsals as soon as we were allowed to. And that worked well, apart from the day that it lashed it down and all the wind brought the rain in and blew the music away.
I started in my back garden and I was taking 5 at a time, sticking to the rules. So I was taking 5 and we had a gazebo up. But it was a bit cold. Everybody was there with gloves and coats on. But
yeah.
It was just getting back together, wasn't it?
Yeah. At Christmas, the local mining museum put on a drive-in carol service. Not carols, sing-along carols. And we kind of put our band out in shifts where we'd have 10 players at a time, but they were in family groups. So you'd have a grandpa with his 2 grandchildren who were in the youth band standing together, and you'd have the husband and wife standing together so that they didn't have to distance because they're in the same household. And we ended up with 4 hours of carols. The band came and went with the audience. Kept the cars went out, and then the next lot came in. And it was between it shared the profit out between the Rotary, the Mining Museum, the hospital radio, and the band. And that was our only gig last Christmas. So we're looking forward to doing a little bit more this year. What have you got in the pipeline?
We've just done our Remembrance Sunday again, which is up at the Pots and Pans Memorial up on the top of a hill over Saddleworth. There were over 1,000 people turned up for that.
Oh,
it was really well attended. A bit daunting. We've been doing that one for years now, but because most local bands have tried it and having to carry their instruments up a hillside, it's not much fun. Oldham Mountain Rescue help us with the big instruments. And then we start next weekend with switching on lights in Dobcross and playing at a Christmas fair somewhere. So then we've a couple of concerts coming up in December. It's
nice to have something like that to look forward to again, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
We've got a church concert on the 4th of December, one of our solo horn players' church. We did it 2 years ago and 3 years ago, kind of a first half of non-festive stuff and then the Christmassy stuff. So we're busy rehearsing for that. And then we have a big concert in Atherton with our youth band and the Unlimited band and the choir and the kid. We have an Unlimited choir that formed off the back of the band. Some of them wanted to do something else as well. So some of them come at 10 till 11 for choir that my friend runs. And then some of them stay till 11:30 till 1 for band. So some of them are with us all morning.
What sort of restrictions have you found teaching adults? Has anything surprised you?
Their dedication in some ways is quite heartening. I've got the gentleman I mentioned earlier who had got the euphonium for his 70th birthday, was practicing for up to 5 hours a day. He was going absolutely nuts. He was working his way through absolute mountains of different music and working so hard, listening to things on YouTube, getting really hours of practicing. He was going through grandfather's clock, so quite recently he was really hammering it. And during the lockdowns, he had his lessons on Zoom. He was, he wasn't for stopping. It kept him sane, he said. The other barriers, finding the right instrument for them sometimes can be a bit of a challenge. We've got a chap who used to be a head of a music service, and he's always played the trombone, and he's got really bad arthritis at the moment, so he's finding it difficult to actually hold the instrument. So he's giving euphonium a go, obviously with the pitching and everything being the same. He's finding that a little bit more manageable because it can sit on his knee. Other than that, I find them very dedicated. I have great respect for them. These people who've taken on this challenge late in life.
I am quite proud for some of them because you can see them coming in. The ones that knew nothing and they started from scratch. And then you see them, they'll pick up a piece of music and they're just looking through it and, I know how this one goes. And I say, you're reading music now. You are actually reading that. You're not playing it, you're reading. And they're quite thrilled by it. As for challenges, though, the main one that has always been there is they've come along and eyesight. One of the first things that happens to them when they've got their instrument is that they end up at the opticians trying to find glasses that suit.
Yeah.
And they're all trying varifocals, bifocals, and office glasses. That seems to be the in thing there.
Yeah.
Just so they can see the music on the stand.
Yeah. I've noticed one or two of mine, their hearing's worsened slightly during lockdown. You want to chat, right? Where are we going from? Let us see. Let us see, Bob. But they look after one another. They keep one another in the right place. I don't know. Have you ever come across the Rodney Newton cornet solo, Dimitri?
I'm pretty sure it's in the band library, that.
Yeah, I've got two ladies who have both been beginners. There's one of them who's a clarinet player, and she started learning the cornet alongside her son, who's now at the RNCM. And another lady who started from scratch, who'd never played, and she found her son's cornet under the bed when she was clearing his room out when he went to university. Both ladies are in their early 60s and they've learnt from scratch and they're playing this Dimitri. We've kind of worked it out as a duet where one plays first and then the second one plays on the second time. Yeah. Neither of them wanted to do a solo with the band, but they were quite happy to stand up together, and we've kind of made that accessible for them. And I had a lump in my throat on Monday when they played it through. They're going to be playing it at a concert. They sounded so lovely and they were so committed. That's what I like about that age group, is they're committed. They really commit to it. It's a pleasure to see.
I would say mine are half and half. Some of the band see it more of a social sort of function.
Oh, yeah.
They like to come along and see friends and whatnot and sit with people. Whether they're practicing at home or not, I doubt it with some of them. Yeah,
it is a bit like that sometimes, but there are some that really take it quite seriously. And some who've got time to, if they're retired and they're not at work during the day, and they've got a little bit of time to enjoy a hobby again. It's nice to see that.
You know the keen ones when you find out they've gone out and bought practice mutes.
Oh, yes.
So they can blast a bit more at home.
Yeah, we've got one or two that have been out and spent quite a lot of money on a decent instrument as well, and are looking after it. And and treated themselves, which is nice.
Where did you get all your instruments from?
Well, I think we must be one of the only youth bands that has an adult band as its kind of additional band. It's usually an adult band that has
The youth band.
Yeah, it's the other way around. So the charity is called Astley Youth Band, and Astley Unlimited Band uses the youth band library and the youth band instruments and stands, and it all comes under the same umbrella. So there's the youth band here, and then there's the Unlimited Band, the Unlimited Choir, and the training band, and we all use the equipment and stands under the same sort of charity umbrella. So we have actually got plenty of instruments, because I'd say the majority of the kids in our youth band at the moment have got their own, or they've got one from school or a music centre. Yeah. We did originally get a lottery grant. We're talking now 25 years ago. We got a lottery grant for a set of international instruments. What about you? Where'd you get yours?
When Grenville started it off, there was some spare instruments of the Dobcross bands, but there was only a few. So once people started arriving, we decided that everybody should pay subs, because we weren't an earning band. We weren't going out there earning money. So they were paying subscriptions, and that soon started to build up.
Yeah.
I was able to buy either the cheap instruments, or better still, I found was buying second-hand on eBay. So bit by bit, we've built up our own set of instruments now over the years. And we had help from Borzer's band. Oh, yeah. Borzer's loaned us instruments, and Delft band sold us some basses.
Yeah.
So without the other local bands, we'd have struggled. So
you're kind of financially independent then, rather than sort of being involved with financially with the other bands.
We're completely independent now. Yeah. Right. This name we've got, the Dobcross Brass Monkeys. Once we became a full band, we said we won't get confused with Dobcross Silver Band, Dobcross Youth Band. We need something that's unique. So the band came up with that, Dobcross Brass Monkeys. So
that's a really great name. I love that.
We stuck with it.
With the subs thing, we found that we were taking weekly subs, and there was one lady sat on the desk with people queuing up with their money, and it took forever to get them through the door. And since we've restarted after the COVID restrictions were lifted, we've actually gone to a monthly standing order thing now, and the majority of them pay, and that actually helps, because they're paying one amount, and if they're not there, you're not missing that money, because you're still having to pay for the hire of the room and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not a fantastic lot. I think they pay something like £12 a month.
Ours is 20.
Yeah. So they do all right out of it. Mm. The advantage of the new band room is that it's actually costing us less than the originally having to hire two different places. Well, lovely to talk to you, Phil, and
you, Helen.
Keep in touch.
All right, and thanks for that.
Carry on the good work.
And you too.
Bye for now.